Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Everything Science. On today's episode, we'll be discussing two M's, the moon and marijuana. No one has set foot on the moon in 50 years, but that could soon change as NASA unveils plans to go back. We're all familiar with the first man on the moon, Neil Armstrong, and when he said those now infamous words on July of 1969, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Although an interesting side detail here is that Neil Armstrong himself says that he actually said that's one small step for a man, not just man. You can't quite hear the word "a" in the original recording.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Not that it's really high quality audio, but it's interesting to think that some of the most famous words ever spoken may have been a misquote. Anyways, like I said, we all know the first person to step foot on the moon, but most of us don't remember the last. On December 13th, 1972, Gene Cernan of Apollo 17 took the last steps any human has ever made on another world, but that record might not last much longer. Working with commercial partners and the European Space Agency, NASA has announced plans to build a moon-orbiting space station as well as a permanent lunar base. We're preparing for a return to the moon and to travel on to Mars as we continue to help the United States lead the world in exploration and discovery of the unknown, Jody Singer, director of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, said during a 2018 congressional hearing. But America might not be alone in its race back to the moon. The recent success of the Chang'e 4 might reignite tensions as everyone races to put another man back on the moon. To get there first, NASA has partnered with 9 companies from space giants like Boeing and Lockheed Martin to small startups like New Jersey-based Orbit Beyond. Over the next decade, NASA hopes to use these companies to build a private fleet of rockets capable of shuttling people and supplies between the lunar moon base, the orbiting space station, and back to Earth. But before NASA and its partners can conquer the moon, there are some serious hurdles that need to be overcome, like the logistical problems of getting people and supplies into lunar orbit, how lunar men will eat and drink, and the ever-challenging prospect of reigniting America's space ambitions. Currently, NASA plans to send astronauts into lunar orbit aboard Orion, a space capsule from a joint venture between the American and European space agencies in 2023. Then, in 2024, another Orion crew will begin constructing the moon-orbiting space station nicknamed Gateway. Gateway's function will be different from the International Space Station, the ISS. Instead of being a permanently staffed outpost, it will serve as a fuel depot and a waypoint for crewed missions on their way to the surface. Thus far, NASA hasn't shown a strong interest in building moon bases themselves, preferring to leave that job to international and commercial partners. But the European Space Agency has long promoted the idea of a collaborative international moon village that would serve as a hub for scientific missions, mining expeditions, and potentially even tourism. But plans for a lunar base aren't new. Ever since the 60s, the US has envisioned building a base on the moon. But back then, their aspirations may have gotten a bit ahead of them. But now, with recent developments in space and rocket technology, the possibility of a moon base grows more tangible by the day. Who knows, one day soon you may even be watching this video from the lunar surface. Now in more, let's say, taboo news, a recent study in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that the legalization of recreational marijuana in Washington state in 2012 led to a decrease in teen usage. Researchers analyzed data from the Washington Health Youth Surveys of 2010 through 2012 and 2014 to 2016. What they found was that marijuana use fell from 10 to 7% in 8th graders, from 20 to 18% in 10th graders, and had no observable effects in 12th graders. This goes against a common held belief that the legalization of recreational marijuana would lead to an increased use amongst teens. These are important findings since several studies have shown the negative effects of marijuana usage on a developing brain. Susan Weiss, the director of the Division of Extramural Research at the National Institute on Drug Abuse, says, "There are a lot of open questions about the long-term effects of marijuana, but there's a growing literature and it's all pointing in the same direction. Starting young and using frequently may disrupt brain development." Researchers warn that these findings do not give a final answer about how legalization may ultimately influence youth marijuana usage. It is a promising start to an important topic. Well, that's it for today on Everything Science. If you like this content and are interested in seeing more, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on Everything Science.